Before we take a short break, we have another great panel to highlight the perspectives of chefs and what these culinary leaders envision for the future of our food systems. So we have Brian Fowler, the executive chef at BLACKBARN Restaurant, Christy McKenzie, the owner of Pasture and Plenty, Niven Patel, a chef and co-owner of FEAL Hospitality, Samantha Sanz, the chef for Post Hospitality, and Andy Teixeira, the executive chef at Newport Vineyards. And I'd like to introduce your moderator and my friend, Ann McBride, the vice president of programs at the James Beard Foundation. Huge round of applause for them, please.
Thank you so much, Danny. Thank you all for being here with us this morning. It's such a great honor for me to be moderating these people who are cooking all the food you'll be eating tonight. So, yes, a little louder. You want to be fed well? Give them a little incentive. So you're here because you pay specific attention to your sourcing, whether it's local or what gets on a plane. I'd love for each of you to briefly say a word about that and what defines your sourcing philosophy. Let's start with you, Andy, and just go down the line.
Hi, everybody. So at Newport Vineyards, we focus on farm-driven. All of the food we bring in is driven by farms. How we write our menus, it's all based on what we can get from the farms. Now, we do massive volume, so we need to be able to branch out. Niman gives me the opportunity to stay small family farm, to be able to supply my volume and knowing that I'm sourcing outside of New England and still protecting small family farms and helping them really, get what we need. And especially seeing yesterday, the families, it was wonderful.
So for me, it's the integrity that really comes through in the product. Arizona doesn't have a lot of farms as Iowa per se, but we do try to stay very seasonal and use our native ingredients. Niman Ranch has such a beautiful product that you can taste how, humane and the care they put into it, and that's my philosophy, just making sure that I showcase a product and really make it shine without manipulating it a lot.
For me, I have a small 2-acre farm in Miami, and I know how hard it is to do what you all do on a mass scale, so it's really the appreciation of how much goes into the final product and the ability all you farmers really have to create consistent product and how hard it is and the quality that you do. It's absolutely amazing.
At Pasture and Plenty in Madison, we really benefit from being in southwestern Wisconsin, which has an incredible small farm community. And so we source as much as we can from as close as we can, and we try to do that across produce and proteins and grains, even the oils that we're using in the kitchen. And for us, it really is about relationships. I think the last panel talked about the power of collaboration and community. So when we're looking for an ingredient that we haven't sourced before, we are always asking our friends in the restaurant community or in the farm community or in the food producer community how we can solve that need. And sometimes it ends up being an ingredient that we didn't expect before, or that maybe we're looking for something really unique, and there's a local ingredient that can take its place, that's more climate forward, that's more regenerative, and aligns with our values.
Hello, everyone. For us at BLACKBARN, we started to ask ourselves the question of what is sustainability. So Niman obviously helps us do that, but there's other things that we're doing in the restaurant. We just recently became green certified. So what that means is our lights, our water, we're actually also composting. So a lot of the mushrooms that we use in the restaurant are coming from the compost that we send out. We then order those mushrooms and those go into the dishes. So when we asked ourselves the question of what is sustainability, the consistency of what you guys do, Niman-wise, from the bottom up, really helped us plan our menus and really helped us stay true to that question of what is sustainability.
You both Brian and Christy, you both talked about that briefly, so I want to see if any of the other panelists have an answer about what are some of the things that really drive your purchasing decision. What's the biggest driver? So Christy, you talked about solving a need, and Brian, sustainability. Any of you have any other thing that really make you say yes or no when a purveyor approaches you?
Yeah, I think for me it's consistency and quality, and that's what really Niman offers, is the quality and the ability to have it year-round at a quantity. That's usually the hardest part when you start getting to smaller farms. Yeah.
For me, I mean, it's the same thing, consistency and quality, but it's mainly knowing where the product's coming from, right? That it was taken care of, it was raised with care. So you can just taste it in the product and you feel good about feeding it to people. Instead of just feeding them to feed them, you're actually nourishing them. So that's really important for me.
For me at Newport Vineyards, again, the sustainability and the quality, but we're a farm. We're a grape farm, and we have a 2-acre garden, and we do all whole animal butchery. So I was breaking down animals from all over small farms in our area. It wasn't enough. So I found Niman had this, I couldn't tell, I've sent ribeye pictures last week to everybody just because I couldn't tell from the ones I got from the farm a mile up the road or the ones I got from Niman. So it's the consistency of my model and my views of small family farms and the great quality that I can get. I can't tell the difference.
And I promise you that I was not cueing them to be talking so wonderfully about Niman Ranch. Obviously, we're in the right place for that. But it is very much about being inscribed in this local and national food system, and especially when you're talking about volume. So I really appreciate that you all went there, and I'm sure a few of our friends in the room are appreciating that too. So thank you. Brian, you talked about sustainability, and I'm curious, what are your diners especially asking from you all from a sustainability perspective, whether it is from sourcing or sustainable practices period at the restaurant?
It's not so much asking, I don't think. You know, we put together the menu, and yeah, they ask and they order the things that they order, but we are known as farm to table. So to that, I think a lot of people in here can understand people are paying attention a lot more to what they're putting in their bodies, to what they're putting on their bodies from products that they might use besides food. But more importantly, people are trying to be a lot more healthier. So when they understand, you know, what they're eating, it helps them a lot better. And that title of farm to table helps us a lot as well. Being that there's no time to be at the side of a table to educate people, that becomes the very tough thing to be able to do. And yeah.
What about the rest of you? Are your customers demanding certain practices? Are you driving the car there?
Yeah, I think, so when I started my business, I was really looking to fill a niche between going to the grocery store or going to the farmer's market or getting a CSA and sourcing raw ingredients and finer dining, farm to table. And so for me, I knew that we were filling a need, that people were really looking for convenient food solutions that didn't create compromise. And first, we call it CSA 2.0 because we're trying to support the local farms that we wanted to support but didn't feel like we had time to in our home kitchen. And so as we make decisions, we try to make decisions that are by the ethics that we hold, that we want to minimize waste, that we want to make sure that we're bringing clean food into our kitchens, that we're preparing food that we want to serve to our friends and our neighbors and our families. And when we do that, we know that other people come back because they feel those values. It comes through in everything that we deliver. And those decisions, just like Brian was saying, it's everything from how we power the restaurant, how we think about sourcing wind and solar, how we think about the boxes or the packaging that we use for our products, all the way to, are we using every piece of the corn down to the cob to make stock?
Yeah, I think for me, it's like, it goes down to the economics also of when we're using smaller producers like Niman or Bell & Evans, I've seen less fluctuation in pricing from our side. So we have it doesn't like translate to higher prices for the consumer. So consistency in how our menu pricing has been a lot less volatile than I would say the commodity market, and it helps us not have like huge rises in prices, so the guest doesn't feel that inflation as much as the commodity market does right now.
Well, for me, I have been seeing a lot of people trying to get healthier and avoiding a lot of the food that, like canola oil, like all those seed oils, and then going back to the basics of like, oh, actually, lard is good for you, pork is good for you, So just the client wants to know where it comes from. The client wants to be nourished, and for me, it's just the educational part for them, teaching them that there's other ways to eat pork instead of just the pork chops, right? So getting creative with the ingredients, getting creative with the protein, and really showcasing it, and people get so excited when they try something completely different. So that's the most important part for me. So
For us at Newport Vineyards, it's a little bit different. We're already education focused, being a winery and a brewery. We have education tours constantly, and I have an unfair advantage. I have a 120-acre beautiful property that you can sit and see the whole thing. So people immediately ask, is this grown here? What else grows here? Not so much about the sustainability aspect of it. We get to then, that opens the door to tell everybody that BLT you're eating was grown here, the bread was made here, we cured the bacon, we did everything ourselves. So we're doing recognizable food in a sustainable way and feeding masses, and they're getting the education and leaving, not just with a full belly, but a little smarter.
And Samantha and Niven, this is especially for you, although it's obviously impacting the whole country, but we just released a report a couple months ago at the foundation with the George Washington University's Global Food Institute on the economic impact of climate change on independent restaurants. And we have a huge campaign around this because it's so real and it's impacting chefs around the country. But you are in Miami and in Arizona, in two of the hottest places in the country right now. And I don't mean, unfortunately, from a culinary food scene perspective. What are some of the main challenges that you are personally facing in your operations because of climate change?
Well, we have our small 2-acre farm, and like we saw it this year. Last year, our mango trees produced like over 1,000 pounds of mangoes. And then this year, it was just like a really bad mango season because the bloom came a little too early in season, like in December versus like late January. And then in January, we had like a small like cold spurt, and all the blooms went down, and it was literally like probably, like my trees that had thousands of pounds had like 2 or 3 mangoes on it. So it went like really drastic this year. Hopefully next year we're better.
For us, climate change does affect the small farms we have in Arizona. Obviously, in the summer, everything is dead. So farmers markets are away during the summer. So it's a really big challenge trying to connect the dots and trying to figure out. Most of our product comes from California during that season. So it's very important to make those connections with the farmers from California and try to get the best product flown into Arizona. But when it's not hot, then we get some beautiful produce again. So.
All right, we have very little time, and I have 2 more questions. We're going to go rapid fire with the next 2. This is the Culinary Prediction Panel. So what are your predictions for trends for 2025 and beyond? Let's start with Brian, go down the line.
2025 and beyond. I haven't even gotten to 2024 yet. As far as, on the climate change, that's a huge one. Over the years, I've seen, at least the farmers that I've worked with, the climate change is just so unpredictable, as Niven just said, as Chef Sam just said. A lot of the farmers that I work with, a lot of things that they deal with as far as climate change are early frost, heavy rain, diseases that they just don't see. Going into 2025, and beyond this, the greenhouse efforts, or figuring figuring out a way to make things a little bit more sustainable, maybe a little bit more predictable, as far as the weather change. The weather change is the huge thing that is going to be able to predict where, our food is going to ultimately go, as far as fruits and vegetables, as well as livestock as well, because you need the fruits and vegetables to be able to keep your livestock to the certain par that you need.
Thank you. Christy?
Yeah, I agree. I think that we're going to see, the work that these chefs are all doing and that we do at our restaurant is all focused on local sourcing. And I think that you're going to see a change across more like mass food culture toward regional and seasonal eating. I think that we have to. And we have to think about sourcing ingredients that are more regenerative, and I think we'll see more and more of that in general education, not just an interest from people who are foodies and looking specifically for local food already. I think that we're going to see more of a focus on perennial cropping and ingredients that are maybe more common on menus around the country now. You'll see begin to be like return to local or seasonal availability rather than mass availability. So I think that it's a very interesting time. I think that it means a lot of experimentation in the kitchens and a lot more innovation.
For me, I think it's a more educated consumer. I think as everything that we do and how it's getting spread, I think more people are aware of what's going in their body. And it kind of positions chefs like us and restaurants like us ahead of some. So I think people will start seeking out quality over quantity.
Yeah, quality over quantity, education, very important to pay attention to the trends, obviously, and keep it as seasonal as possible. Seasonal is good for you, so I think a lot of people are going to try to understand that a tomato in December is not going to be as good as in the summer. And where did the tomato come from,
Yeah, just to piggyback on that, it's education. I think our diners are a lot more educated, and everybody wants to know the lineage of their food. They love the story, and I see it more and more. Everybody wants to know where it came from, how it was, gotten to us, the path, and social media is just helping that so much, which is really wonderful, because I think that's where most of the education is coming from, them following all the stuff that we do.
Great. Well, we don't have time for my last question, but you kind of answered it. I was going to ask you, in a room full of diners, what you most want diners to know about the realities of operating a restaurant today, which is definitely challenging. So since they're not going to answer here, ask them when you see them walking around. Let's give them a big round of applause, and let's look forward to dinner tonight.
Woo! Love all these chefs. I love the points that were made about seasonality, the climate crisis, obviously, and perennial crops, so exciting, and the craving for the story of our food. So all of these chefs are doing incredible things. Give them another round of applause, please.
It's 98, and hog market it was terrible. And so in 99, I was watching a show called Market to Market. Paul Willis was on the show, said he was looking for farmers to do this outside pork thing. And I said, well, that's exactly what I do. I said, Penny, you got to find Paul Willis. And so she did.
I happened to read an article, I think it was in the Agri-News, and it was on Paul Willis and the way he was raising pigs in Iowa. So my brother and I got in the car one day, and we called him up first, and we drove down to see what his operation looked like.
There was no Google back then. You had to call information on the phone. That's the way we did it. So we found him, and you gave him a call. And we met him in Sioux City, and we'll never forget, Paul, as humble as he is, if everybody knows that, says, this is what I'm doing. I don't know if it's going to work. I have no promises, but if you're willing to go in and try it, he says, we'll welcome you.
Niman Ranch was growing a lot at that time, and they started a feeder pig farm. And so I started buying feeder pigs, and I wanted to be a part of Niman Ranch because I believed in it. I still believe in it.
When we found him, we thought, wow, there's actually people who think like we do. think that the hog should be raised that way.
And that's why I'm raising pigs.
Sold my first hogs in November '99. Had 40 hogs. They weighed 280. I still have the check, or a copy of the check.
I can raise a hog this way, and Niman Ranch tries really hard to enable you to make money. You've got a superior product that you're selling, and people want to buy that superior product. That makes me feel good. That makes me feel good to be a part of Niman Ranch because I can enjoy raising pigs, I'm making money, and at the same time, I'm not under threat that I'm going to be squeezed out because I'm too small.
I work with Niman because, I've met a lot of friends and good people to work with.
It's who we are.
Yep. I love what I'm doing. I have no idea where I'd be if I didn't join 20 years ago. I wake up every morning just thanking the Lord that I got Niman Ranch.
It's such a wonderful video. It gives me chills. I am actually tearing up. I always say it's not a food tank event if I don't cry. But I think the line at the beginning, you have to go find Paul Willis. And it strikes me so much because without Paul, none of us would be in this room together. So please give him another round of applause.